Consolation bracket race, bottom 4 eliminated, top 4 remain alive. Good luck, contenders. Arm your clocks. Lionel and Tony.
That's how I got knocked out of the World Cup brackets at International Open 2023. Put a cap on one of the most fun weeks I've had in an extremely long time. So some of my experience at International Open I want to highlight are the World Cup qualifying sessions. So all the DVR in this video will be brackets racing except my World Cup 1 qualifying run. So I just want to show the contrast of, I think I put on some strong qualifying heats and then kind of fell apart in brackets. So I really want to highlight how I think I can get better at bracket racing. And then Saturday I participated in the World Cup Top 64. I qualified 38th overall my combined times of the two tracks, so I participated in that race. But some of the other events that were going on throughout the week, there was a tiny whoop tent, there were whooping going on every single night. Street League was flying the spec track super late in the morning. I flew a few packs with them, but really next year I want to fly a lot more Street League. I didn't make time for it this year because I was really focusing on open class and having a lot of fun with Freedom Spec. So I just didn't make it in the time to do that. And then they also have a GQ at International Open, and I didn't get a chance to fly the GQ personally, but I know a lot of other people use it as just an extra qualifying session there. So there are events for everyone. There are group races throughout the week as well for all skill levels. So I felt like the MultiGP team's done the best they've ever done in terms of being inclusive, in terms of racing and giving everyone a chance to participate in brackets. So I started out the week by flying the World Cup tracks, and what you'll see right here is the first World Cup 1 track. And this was actually my favorite track to fly. I felt like it flew really well. I actually thought it matched the sim pretty well as well. And it was able to a really flowy, tight technical track, but it was at the same time extremely fun to fly, and I didn't think it was too challenging either. Some of the guide wires threw me off a little bit, but once you learned awareness and go HDZero for those guide wires, I felt like it was the most fun track I flew all week. So I felt like I had a really strong qualifying. I qualified 38th overall for my 2 combined tracks, and I had a ton of fun qualifying, but as you'll see a little bit later, I kind of fall apart in brackets. And so if you compare the footage kind of here, you're seeing I'm taking lines pretty consistent. I'm coming out of gates always pointing in the right direction. Something I'll work on next year is like getting less flustered in brackets, because in brackets, as you'll see later, I'm kind of forgetting where to go, getting really flustered, and I just really need to calm down and just treat it like a normal qualifying run. For my strategy for brackets, I think, moving forward. So this is a terrifying sound to hear.
Long able to tell in less than 5.
This is actually the chapter organizer race. So 2 of us decided to participate this, and we had a lot of fun in this race. This was actually, I only got 2 or 3 packs during qualifying to qualify for this race. So I actually ended up in the sport brackets. Which I do think appropriately, because this is only my 5th pack on the course. So flying this track, I had a ton of fun. This track was surprisingly a lot of fun for me. It was a little harder to pick up, but like I said, I think this is the semifinals, and I did make it to the finals with a few others, and it was a ton of fun racing with those guys. So I think I ended up taking 3rd place in the sport organizer race, but this track was a lot of fun to fly. That dive gate right there was really tricky coming out of that the appropriate way without blowing it out. So this race was actually my favorite race of the entire event, and this was actually the Freedom Spec race brackets that was hosting Friday night. And so we had qualifying. They ended up making it a 32-person bracket with 8 up at once racing, and we were literally flying for 2.5 or 3 minutes for 6 laps, and that is crazy. I had not really ever had to fly that long with people being this close. Here getting a little sloppy because it was the first time flying under the lights in a long time, but this was literally the most fun race I had been to at I.O., and participating in that brackets was just an incredible experience. guys at 533 and Shames have definitely unlocked an awesome formula here, because the racing is just fast enough that it's adrenaline inducing while still feeling extremely close and tight, and that you can artificially catch up with the person in front of you, but being able to keep it together for 3 straight minutes was actually kind of a difficult task I was struggling with. So people were doing around 23 to 24 second laps about what I was doing. Some crazy people were hitting 19s, I think. But yeah, this was one of the most fun races I've been to, and Freedom Spec is, I just wish there were some events closer to me, but Freedom Spec was an awesome experience under the lights. So actually right after the conclusion of the Freedom Spec race, we had some pretty bad thunderstorms. So right leading into the next morning, there wasn't any flying allowed because the tracks are being rebuilt and they're moving everything to the main stage for the World Cup brackets. And I qualified 38th for this race, and I was super nervous going into this, and ironically I was the very first heat. And when I looked at the roster of the first heat, it was pretty crazy because I got paired up with Chris M, Robot Racer, Pino, myself, Proximo, Benny Mac, NM Grower, and Cool Whip. Like, that's a crazy lineup to have to go off right off the bat. So as you can see here, by brackets racing is not my high spot racing throughout this week. I definitely flew a lot better in qualifying. I'm very shaky here, very wobbly. And I just get very shaken up brackets. Like, I got completely lost and stunned right there. I just forgot where I was going. So this is a big problem I want to work on in the future, is how do I bring my consistency that I'm doing in just day-to-day practice flying, as well as qualifying, pushing it to brackets, and decide when I need to push, when I do. But majority of the time actually just keep it clean, because right here I'm just getting lost, and I've already put in like probably 15 to 20 packs in this track. It's just the nerves are getting to me really bad right here. So in this heat I actually did pull off 4th just by finishing the race, but it was purely just by finishing those 2 laps that I got in through, because I did not have the pace to get through on this one. But yeah, I had an incredible time though participating in this World Cup bracket, and it couldn't have been a better conclusion to IO, and I can't wait for next year.